Congresswoman Elise stumping for Trump in the Granite State, just days away from that all-too-important New Hampshire primary.
Her appearances on the trail come as speculation continues to swirl about the former president and GOP frontrunner's potential VP pick.
Here to react is the Congresswoman herself, Elise, live in New Hampshire, where she's still on the trail. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being with us. So let me start with that fastball. If Donald Trump were to ask you to be his vice president, would you say yes?
Well, Pete, I've said for well over a year, I'd be honored to serve in a future Trump administration. But we are focused today on making sure that we are showing strong support for President Trump. The energy and momentum is on his side. We had a great rally in Concord last night. You can feel the energy, and he just is coming off of a historic win in Iowa. And, of course, my responsibility right now is I'm proud to be the representative for New York's 21st Congressional District and the House Republican Conference Chair. But, of course, I'd be honored to serve in a Trump administration.
Congresswoman, have there been discussions between you and President Trump about vice president?
I'm not getting into any of my discussions with President Trump. I'm proud to call him a friend, and I'm proud to be the first member of Congress to have endorsed his campaign. I also am proud to be the leader standing in the breach on issues like election integrity, standing up against the 2 sham impeachments, and challenging these witch hunts with ethics complaints for these unethical, radical, far-left judges.
Yeah, you know, Elise, I saw you recently on another network pushing back on this narrative of January 6th. You refer to those people in prison as hostages, as political dissidents. There have been some recent footage that has come out thanks to Representative Massey. You and Mike Johnson came on our show a few weeks ago, and he promised, the Speaker Johnson promised, to release all of the tapes. Apparently, not all of them have been released. What is the status of that? Because, and the only reason I bring it up is because you're fighting for Donald Trump right now, and they're using January 6th, that whole narrative, as a reason, as an excuse legally to keep him off of ballots, and really smear all of his voters. So, your thoughts on that?
Well, it's an important question, Rachel. I certainly am going to continue to support the Speaker as he is releasing those tapes. The Speaker said he is going to release all of the tapes. I know that we can trust him on his word on that. And transparency is very important here, Rachel, because if you look back to 2020, we know that the treatment of BLM violent rioters is vastly different from the nonviolent protesters on January 6th. So this shows the unequal justice system in our country right now. And it's one of the reasons why there's so much growing support for Donald Trump, because they know the system is rigged, and they know that this is the weaponization of the Justice Department, of the federal government, against Joe Biden's top political opponents. And it's not just President Trump. It's conservatives, it's Catholics, it's parents. Yeah. The American people know that deep down.
Why is it taking so long? Why doesn't he just release it now?
You know, that's... Again, the Speaker, I think, is engaged in those discussions with Capitol Police, but he said he's going to release the tapes. He's going to abide by that, and I fully support that.
Congresswoman, help us out with what's going on Capitol Hill, because the House advanced a short-term funding extension to avoid a government shutdown. You voted against the measure, but the Speaker has to craft these deals, and he's getting a lot of criticism for being a little too cozy with Chuck Schumer, maybe going along. And there's talk of a possible compromise where you would get some money for border security, but then also money for Ukraine to keep the government open. What's the right thing to do? Where are we right now?
Well, I know that the Speaker's top priority is securing the border. You know, I represent a border district, and in my northern border district, I will tell you, we've had a 550% increase of illegal crossings. And my border district, it's part of the Swanton sector, which actually goes up to New Hampshire as well. So these northern border states were facing a catastrophic border crisis, as well, of course, of the over 8 million illegals that have poured across our southern border. The Speaker's priority in these negotiations is border security, and the House Republicans rally behind him in that priority as he engages in these discussions. And the reality is the House Republicans are going to stand up for border security on behalf of the American people, because we know that is the top concern among Americans, not just Republicans, but independents and Democrat voters as well.
Congressman, you're in New Hampshire, as we talked about. It's coming up on Tuesday. Most of the polling does show that Donald Trump is up by double digits over Nikki Haley. What is the sense on the ground right now? And I know you are supporting the Trump campaign, but what is the sense on the ground right now about the way that will turn out, and not just in its result, but the length of the potential lead if it turns out the way the polls suggest?
Well, first of all, the president delivered a historic win in Iowa, winning by a larger margin than any other Republican candidate in history. And the momentum is on his side. I will tell you, I represent a cold district. It is bitter cold in New York, and people were waiting for hours in support of President Trump last night at the rally. We had the endorsement from Tim Scott, which is so important. You're seeing people rally in support of President Trump, and we need his strong leadership, especially when we compare it to the weak leadership of Joe Biden. What we do not need is what we've seen from Nikki Haley, who on the issue of election integrity has mimicked Democrat talking points, has betrayed Donald Trump and betrayed voters. We do not need someone who has bowed to China, selling off agricultural land to communist China when she was governor of South Carolina. And we do not need, especially in the live free or die state, someone who has voted to increase the gas tax, who did that as governor. President Trump stands strongly to lower taxes. So these are important issues, and as voters are made aware of these records, you're seeing the momentum is in support of Donald Trump. And I'm so excited to rally with volunteers today for Super Saturday in Manchester.
Well, you've been an incredible advocate for him, and again, defending him on many other networks in a very impressive fashion. Elise Stefanik, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks, guys.
All right.